Hello my dear students. MTP 201 Historical Background and Introduction. This particular course is going to deal with tie and dye and why we should learn the art of tie and dye. Why is it also important that we should know the historical background of tie and dye? This is exactly what we are going to read today. With more and more people becoming interested in tie and dye, a modular course on the subject has been introduced. It is hoped that this program will provide sufficient information to help all the would-be tie-dyers and make them aware of many possibilities of this fascinating craft. And after learning the various techniques, start a small-scale industry. The methods recommended in this course are not meant to be hard and fast rules, but rather to act as a guide giving suggestions. The instructions given are common, can be modified according to your methods and styles. In the past, men and women of many nationalities have found tie-dyeing a means of expressing their love of color and pattern. Today, with the added advantage of modern dyes, it is very rewarding craft. Most of you will be able to manage the majority of methods that require sewing. This need not be elaborated. Medium to large stitches sewn with fair size needles will be all that would be adequate. The ability to pull up the threads tightly and fasten off securely to produce a definite resist is far more important. Owing to small amount of equipment needed, this craft can be carried out in the classroom and in the home. Some of the simpler methods are within the capabilities of the young school children. Textile students can learn a great deal from becoming acquainted with this traditional form of fabric decoration, while the designer has an untapped source of patterns, textures, and effects at their disposal. The dyed fabrics can be used for dresses, skirts, blouses, scarves, and many household articles. It is suggested tie-dye or tie-dyeing as a practical and satisfactory craft. There are easy methods giving quick results, besides those requiring more time and skill. Simple or complicated tie-dye fabrics have a unique charm and attractiveness. This craft is ageless. It can be done by any age, maybe it be a child or an older person. It dates back to the time immemorial. Historical background of the craft. Tie-dye or tie-dyeing is a resist dyeing process. It consists of knotting, binding, folding, or sewing certain parts of the cloth in such a way that when it is dyed, the dye cannot penetrate into these areas. People in many parts of the world have practiced this craft from very early times. It is uncertain when and where it originated, or whether in the first place resist dyeing was discovered accidentally. The earliest records from India and Japan date back to the 6th and 7th centuries AD. Chinese tie-dye silks of 10th period were found in the burial grounds of Astana and Khotan on the old Silk Road in Sianking, East Turkestan. India and Far East carried tie-dye cloth from one place to another as part of their merchandise. In India, tie-dye was known as bandhana work. This has become associated with the small resist or colored spots, which were arranged to form patterns on the dyed ground. The girls of bandhani who tied up the cloth, usually folded into 4 or 6 thicknesses of fine muslin or silk, grew the nails of their thumbs and forefingers very long to enable them to pick up the minute points of material to bind with cotton. Also, skillfully zig-zag designs were produced by folding and twisting the cloth diagonally before binding. The craft suffered a setback towards the end of the 19th century, when printed copies of actual bandhana designs were sold cheaply. In Japan, the spot technique or shibori was widely used for a variety of cotton and silk fabrics dyed with indigo. Later on, folding, rope, and sewing methods known as treatek were developed. Indochina, Thailand, and especially Indonesia have been important tie-dye areas. The spot and treatek method were mainly used to decorate fabrics, usually silk, dyed in beautiful colors. In many countries, the craft is known by the Malaya word plangi or the plangi. The tribes of North Africa produce simple patterns on their woolen cloth. The craft is still flourishing up to the present day in the Western African countries of Nigeria, Ghana, etc. The women of West Nigeria produced magnificent cloth dyed with indigo. These were elaborate, patterned by clamp, folding, and treatek methods. Raffia and bast are used for sewing and binding. In the Western Hemisphere, besides those in Peru, pre-Columbian tie-dyed fabrics have been found in Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico of the US. These were the cottons decorated with resist spots and circles. The craft was practiced at different times in Ecuador, Guatemala, Bolivia, Prague, Argentina, and Mexico, where fine woolen and cotton hand-woven cloths were dyed with spot and treatek patterns. In Europe, a small amount of simple tie-dye was produced in Sweden, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia. In India, the craft is extremely famous in Rajasthan, especially in a city of Jaipur, where tie and dye is done on the fabric. Besides that, it is also famous in Gujarat, where the fiber is resisted or tie-dyed. We know a little bit about tie and dye, the historical background of tie and dye. I'm quite sure we are now ready to go on to practicing the art in our next lesson. Thank you.